So Katie, if you are not seeing my face, so that means that, I'm sorry, if you are seeing my face, instead of the green arrow, and at top it should say you are presenting. So you should, on your screen, in the top right corner, there should be a little icon with like little people icon with a 75 after it. If you click on that icon, it's going to show you all of the people in this presentation. You're going to want to go down to where it says my name, where it says Raquel Ran, and you should see two different ones that say Raquel Ran. One of them is going to say the presentation after it. You want to make sure you click on that one, because then you will be seeing my presenting screen as opposed to webcam that's showing my face. So, and that's good news for everyone to know right away, that if they are not seeing, it, so if you don't see that green arrow, you want to navigate to the people icon and click on the one that says your presentation. Usually you can just click right on the picture. You can also click on it and pin it then so that it doesn't move away from it. Katie, what'd you say? I missed your last comment. Got it. Perfect. Okay. Excuse me. All right. While we are in this same location, so especially with 75 people, if people keep themselves unmuted, it can be a really confusing conversation. So today, everyone should mostly be muted. Shelly might be one of the few that'll pop in and out of our conversation, but most of us are going to be muted. So I'm still underneath this portion where it says people. Shelly, can I have you unmute yourself? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to come down and find Shelly. So you'll notice all of these little icons are red, and Shelly has 3 green dots on it. So before I even got started, I had noticed there were a couple people who were not muted. And so we were getting some weird, not weird, we were just getting that background conversation. Clever was making cookies. I'm really hoping your son will come share with the rest of us. But we were hearing that background conversation. You know, we might be hearing other noise. You know, you'll probably hear my son at some point walking around behind me and doing stuff in the kitchen as well. But if I'm noticing that it's really causing issues, you know, for some reason, Shelly's dog's in the background barking and she's not at her computer to mute it. So what's nice is I can go in and I can actually mute her. So if I click on her name, I have a couple of options. I could pin her, and that means I would always see Shelly's face. I have this little microphone option that allows me to mute her. Now, when I click on this, this is going to mute Shelly for in the call. Now, once I mute her, I no longer have the option to unmute her. If Shelly's trying to talk and I can't hear her, she has to be the one to unmute themselves. So if I click on mute, now I no longer have the option to unmute her, but she can always go back and unmute herself as well. And I'm going to show what that looks like in just a second. Also in this one, if you're like, Shelly, I can't handle your comments, you're being, you know, inappropriate, you need to be out of this call. Or, hey, you're just in the wrong call. This is not where you're supposed to be. You could click that button. I'm not going to remove her, but you could remove her from this Hangouts. So that was up here in that top corner with that 75. Next to it, it kind of looks like a little flag. It also looks like a dialog box. If I click on that one, this is going to be our chat. And so this is where you can pop in here. You can ask questions. That's where I saw Katie had said, I see you. So I knew that she was seeing my face as opposed to my presentation. So Shelly is going to actually be monitoring this portion for us today. If you have a small group of people, it's really easy to monitor. I led a different session and I think I had like 10 to 15 people in it. And I was easily able to monitor both the chat as well as do my presentation. With 75 people, if there are a lot of questions, it's really helpful if you're going to have a lot of people making comments to have someone else.
so another team member, Shelly in this instance, to monitor this and be able to answer those questions as we go throughout. So if you have not done one of these sessions before, you'll notice here that Shelly has this link that she's put in here. So not the Gretchen portion, but this blue link below. So this, when I'm not technically clicking on it, but when you click on it, that is going to take you to this Google Hangouts attendance sheet. So on this sheet, we do need you to somewhere in one of these lines type your name in. It looks like we're doing pretty good. We're at 68 out of our 72. So not doing too bad. Tracy, at the moment, we don't actually have a student-centered one, but I do believe that we are working on it. I also know that Google has some good resources as well on just the basics of how to use Google Meet. Right now, all of our things have been focusing on getting it so that teachers know how to use it and that they feel successful with it. If this is also one of your first times in here, you'll notice underneath Shelly's post that there is that number code right there. It is also at the top of this attendance sheet right here as well, with some older directions for the time clock. They're not the best directions, but it was the best that I could find. You do want to get paid for this hour of time since we are on spring break. If you have questions about doing the time clock, let's save those to the end. We can walk you through some of that if you've not done that before. But you'll use this code here to get paid. If you have not clocked in already, you can do a managed timesheet so that you can get paid for this time. So that's all the fun stuff in our people and chat and where that's going to send you. You can also use the chat to drop other links in as well. So I know I was in another session yesterday with a different TI, and he was sending people to different links. And so that's really handy that you can drop it in so that everyone can access them while you're in a conversation together. So that is our top right corner. You'll also notice, I can see some of the names. I can see myself up here, which is nice, so I know what I am looking at. And I think, Michael, I'm going to kind of point you out just because it works out really well. You'll notice on my screen that if I look at Michael's picture, I am seeing his ceiling fan. And so this is often a big step that people have to remember to do, is to switch their cameras. So when they first go to click to log into Google Hangouts, when you first did that, you have the option, but if you just joined right away and you didn't look at those options, you can, yes, Adalia, I have not done it, but I will do that. Going over a couple of the basics here within the Meet, and then yes, we will show how to create it. So I'm going to actually, if I click on myself, you'll get a weird feedback. So we don't want to do that. So we'll just kind of keep looking at Michael's for a second. So you'll notice there's that fan. So we want to switch it. So your cameras, so this is for teachers that are using a yoga. You technically have two cameras on your device. There is one at the top of your screen. Think of that like your selfie. That's where you see my face. There's also the one that's on the keyboard portion. If you're looking at the number 7 key on your keyboard, you go above that to the F8, and then right above that is going to be your camera. So we have those two different cameras. So Michael's right now is using his keyboard one, which is pushing him up, showing the ceiling. So on this screen, when I'm still here, you'll notice I keep getting this white bar down here. I know some people were having issues with that appearing. You'll notice that pretty much anytime I move my mouse, mine shows up. I know Tom was having some issues with that yesterday. He had to click in this, let's try and get it to go away. He had to click down here for it to then pop up. I'm just going to move this up and out of my way. So when I come down here, we have a bunch of different tools. And so I'm going to start with the 3 dots talking about our camera. So if I click on these 3 dots, Those are our more options, more settings. And so when I go here, there are different things. So let's first start with the switch camera. So if I switch my camera, now it's really hard to see, but if you can find me at all, if you see me, you'll notice that now we're pointing back up to the ceiling. Actually, let's go like this. I don't want to, oh, Michael, we see your face now. Fantastic. So by switching on that allows your face to be seen. Now, let's say you don't even want to be seen. In this white space here, you do have the option to both turn off your camera and turn off your microphone. So right now with Shelly, she is muted and you're seeing her profile picture because her camera is also off. I'll admit there have been a couple days where I've turned off my camera because I got up at 8 o'clock and I jumped in on a conference call right away. So if I'm not ready for other people to see me, I can change that so that people are not seeing my face. Now, when you are in the Google chat, the Google Hangout Meet, it just knows which one to switch to. If you're in any of the other programs, they do call it, one of them is an integrated camera and one of them is the integrated 5M. And I'm now forgetting, but I'm pretty sure the 5M is your screen one. So that's, if you're ever noticing that someone, you're seeing their ceiling, help remind them. Students only have the option for the one camera at the top of their Chromebooks. They don't have the second camera. However, they can flip that top piece so then it cannot, so it's not facing them. Okay, 1 second, sorry. Oh, it didn't mute me. Okay, so also in these three dots, we have some other options. You'll notice at the top here, it says stop recording. So that's where I chose to record this video so that we can come back to it for later training. That is an option that is only available to us at the moment through July 1st. Google has opened it up in regards to the pandemic, and it is a paid version that we as a school district do not pay for. So it's something special that we have for right now to use. The next option down is the change layout. For the most part, you just want to leave it on as auto. Usually it's going to choose the sidebar option, and that's what we have right now. So you're seeing in the main screen anyone who shows up here with pictures of everyone. Because I'm presenting, it will show what my screen is. If I'm not presenting, whoever is talking is going to take up that main space. Many times that's fine. You can just leave it set up that whoever is unmuted and talking. However, sometimes if a lot of people are unmuted, then it bounces all over the place in between pictures, and it can be very confusing at times as to who's doing the talking and whose face you're looking at. If you're in a large group like we are, I recommend just leaving it as auto. You don't want to change that. But if you have a small group, so I'm thinking, I know like at West, our student services are looking at doing some small groups meetings where they can still see each other's faces. So this tiled option could be beneficial. If you have like 10 or less people, you can still see all of their faces, no matter who is talking. Then one I don't often change, but it can be useful. So if I go back under those three dots, you could also make it full screen if you wanted to, minimize out of everything else here. There are also a few other settings that you can work with and look at. Oh, here, I can check it here. So, I was wrong. I'm sorry. The integrated camera is the one on top of your screen, and then the 5M is the one that is on your keyboard. If you're having issues with audio, you can always change your microphone and your speakers in this spot as well. Sometimes it is important to note if you're using a headset, You'll notice right now I do not have a headset on. If you've done any of Tom King's sessions, he does use a headset to just try and limit some of the extra sound around him. The other day, my dog started howling, and so everyone could hear that. Right now, he's doing good. He's behaving, but that would limit some of the sound, but then I would maybe have to change what microphone I'm using there. Okay, we also have these two options down here. You could turn on captions, and I'm going to turn that on just so you can see some of that. So, oh, I got to stop moving my mouse. I'm sorry. Okay, so you'll notice at the very bottom of my screen, there are the words popping up as I am talking. So far, it's doing a really good job of catching my words. Shelly, I can't remember right now off the top of my head. This does not save, though, in the recording, correct?
I do not think so.
Okay.
And I would suggest having people turn their own closed captioning on, because it seems like it makes your voice a little choppier as a presenter when you have it on.
Oh, that is good to know. So like right now, it's noticing that it's a little choppy.
It kind of slows you down just a little bit. And
That
it
makes
might
sense.
be my screen or my connection, but I've noticed that.
Well, and I also wonder too, you know, if it, because I want to make sure that it was picking up my voice, and that I didn't mess up the words, I wonder too if I'm going slower to make sure.
Right. But
and I
each
just-
person can turn their own on if they want to see it versus hearing you.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Because it does pick up everyone talking. So you might have noticed that Shelly's words were also showing up on the bottom of there as well. I think it was Christine commented about the Spanish. I mean, it's going to bring up words that it thinks, but it's not going to do a really good job because it is doing it in English as opposed to recognizing the Spanish language or the Spanish words. So unfortunately, at this time, no, not that I know of. But it wouldn't surprise me if Google would be working on something to make that better. All right, so that was the captions. Oops, come back here. Next to it is this you are presenting button. So I'm going to show my desktop for a second so I can find a picture. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Okay, so you should now be seeing an image that says present now right here. So I'm going to go back into Google Hangouts for a second. So where it says you are presenting, that's where we would see present now. When I click on that present now, I get these two options here. Your entire screen or just a window. Ooh, excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. That'd be great to share with people who are going to speak in Spanish. You can choose your entire screen, which is what I am doing right now. And that allows you to see everything on my screen. Or you could choose a window, and then that would limit you to just the Chrome window that you are working in. So I chose your entire screen, and then this option here came out. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. Oh, being finicky here. Okay, so then a second dialog box pops up in the middle of the screen. Now, I have a second monitor plugged into my laptop right now. So this screen here is going to be my laptop, and then this screen here was my second monitor screen when I went to go start presenting. So I had to click right on screen one. So at this time, I have already clicked on it. You can kind of see that it's gray around the edges. And that's why this button here, the share, is blue. Prior to you clicking, if you have another option, if you choose the window one as well, you'll get multiple options.
So you have to choose which one you want to do prior to being able to click share. So once I click share, then you get this screen here. So on this screen, when I am done presenting, I have two options. I could click right here to stop presenting, or, and this usually shows up at the bottom here, you can move it around. If I can find this little box here, I can click on the stop sharing button. Now, sometimes this little box can be in the way, so they do give you the option to hide it. When I hide it, if I click on my, well, if I hover over my Chrome window, I'll notice this one here, and I can click on it, and then I would have that option once again to stop sharing. I'm going to hide it again. Now, if you're looking at your white bar down here, you should see the option to present as well. So technically, you could kick me out of presenting, and your screen then would be showing to the rest of the group. Google did just recently put out a couple of new updates in regards to all of this online teaching that is happening from home, knowing that many people are using Google Hangouts to be communicating with others. So they were working on setting up a couple of features like being able to mute everyone in the call as opposed to having to go through individually. And I think they were working on some of these presenting and recording features as well to give the person who created the Hangout more control of their Hangout so that others couldn't do some of the messing around with it. But at this time, if someone wanted, they could technically present over top of my screen.
Do you want me to show that, Raquel, or you think we're good?
I guess, does anyone want to see it in action, or does that make sense? It's hard to really see anything because all of a sudden you're just going to see that Shelly's screen is going to pop up. I will be able to know, though, immediately who's presenting, because up in this top corner, it'll tell me that Rochelle is presenting as opposed to that I am presenting. Shelly, how are we doing on questions? Anything that I need to stop?
Nope, keep going.
Okay. The one last thing within Google Meets that can be handy, I did not set it up this way, but in this bottom left corner, you'll notice there are the details. So here's the joining information. I could copy it, if I wanted to share it out to someone else. If I'm like, oh, hey, Lindsay sent me an email. I know she needs this code. I could grab it right from here and send it to her. The other thing is, and we'll get to this in a second, if I create this through Google Calendar and I attach some files, it will show up here. So I could, if I had been prepared, attach the attendance sheet right here, and that way we wouldn't have to put it in our chat over and over again. And I will show you what that looks like in the Google Calendar. So that's the overarching basics of what Google Meets looks like. Now, one thing that was confusing a couple people is it says Google Hangout, but at the top it says Meet, and I might refer to it as both Google Meets and Google Hangouts. Technically, they're all kind of the same thing. I like to think of it as the Meet is, so Google Meets is used for a lot of your large group video conferencing. I also have, let's get out of that. I also have on the side here different conversations. Shelly, are you okay if I open up our chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I think of this portion here as Hangouts. Technically, they work with each other, but I think of this as my Hangouts. So Shelly and I could be having basically a text messaging conversation through here instead of doing email. And then I use Google Meets for my video conferencing. If it's just Shelly and I doing a video conference, you can just do a quick video call right from here as well. but technically they all kind of just overlap and they kind of all play really nicely together while confusing other people. All right, so let's look at creating a Google Meet to send people to. And I don't exactly, this might look weird. You can go directly to the URL of meet.google.com. I think this is going to be weird because we're here. Oh, it's not. Fantastic. So this is just the general Google Meet page. You'll notice that I have this one right here because these are already on my calendars. So Google Meet does talk back to your calendar and it looks at what you already have going on. So because I've put these on my calendar, it knows that we have a Google Hangout. It even knows that it's being recorded right now. And then it knows that at 2:30, I have a separate, or not a separate, I have a new meeting going on that has a Google Meet attached to it. I could also join or start a meeting directly from here. And this is, I hope nothing goes wrong here because I don't usually do this. If you have the meeting code, you could put it in here. Or if you want to start your own meeting, you could create one here, and then you'll get a code that you can send to people. A lot of times, this is one like that's being done on the fly. If I'm just like, hey, I'm going to send you a link. Let me just drop this in here, and here's a link. You and I can do a video chat. If I am planning ahead, I almost always do it through my Google Calendar. So you'll notice I had a couple of different trainings today. Here's my OneNote one. You know, I had a general help one, and here's the one that we had here today, or that we are all in right now, I should say. Okay, so for me, it makes the most sense to put the time when it's going to happen. So I'm just going to create, though, a fake one for right now. So we'll say we're doing one after this. So I'm going to just say example training. Now, if I just leave this, that'll just show up on my calendar as example training from 1:30 to 2:30. If I go to more options, on this screen here, hopefully many of you have used Google Calendar before. One thing you might not have seen is this option here with the camera to add conferencing. So when I click on that, I only have one option, and that's for a Hangouts Meet. It's going to add conference details, and now I have that code. So when we were looking, I'm going to actually grab this whole thing here. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to click on it. So now, when I see at the top here, this part after the .com is going to be your code that you can use to get into a Google Meet. So if I grab that and I could drop that in here to join the meeting. I've got so many meets open right now, I don't know where I should be. This is also, which one am I in? This entire thing, this is also what we've been dropping into Frontline so that all of you can access the entire link. When I'm in here, I have a couple of options. I want that to go away. There it goes. I can just leave it just like this. I can also add guests. Sorry, Shelly, you're getting another one. So I can add Shelly right into my training. And this way, she's going to have this Hangout right there. She doesn't have to go anywhere else to find it. She'll just see it right in her Google Calendar, and it'll pop up, and she can click right on that to access the Meet. Now, before, when I was talking about having attachments here, if I knew that Shelly and I had something to be working on. I'm going to grab this. So I could link. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I want the link one. I could link, you know, if that was our agenda, I could link that in so that we both have easy access to it. If I click on the attachment, it does also let me search my Google Drive or any of my different files, which looks like it's taking a nice long time to do it though, which is fine. We don't need that. So when we go here, now it would show up here for both Shelly and I to easily access and get to. As I move forward with more of these trainings, that is my plan with the attendance sheet, just to make it easier, because once you're here, you know where to get to right away with that. So I'm going to save this. So now, if I'm in my Google Calendar and I click on my example training,
Can I just interrupt quick?
Yes, absolutely.
When she clicked send, it sent me an email inviting me. There was an option to, wasn't there one to not send the email to? I forget the 3 options.
Yeah, there's a send, don't send, and I think cancel.
Okay, so when you click send, it's sending me an email that says you've been invited to this Hangout. And if you needed me to show that, I could, but I don't think I need to, so.
Yeah, I think we're okay. But yes, yeah, so that it's good. Otherwise, it'll just show up on that calendar. Otherwise, if you hit send, then they'll at least get an email stating that it came through. So now when it comes time for 1:30, I can click one time on this, and I can click right on this Join Hangouts Meet, and it's going to open into this screen right here. You also have the option if you wanted to copy it, if you wanted to send that link to another person without adding them to this, you could grab it that way as well. And that's actually, so for this Google Hangouts one that we're doing right now, I did not add anyone to it. Rather, I just copied that link and sent it to a person who added them all into Frontline. Since I have this one open, I just want to show it. So if you remember before, I was talking about when you go to join, you have a couple of options here. So right now, you can see my face and you can see I'm talking. So if I turned off the microphone, then let me make sure you guys can still hear me. Okay, good. Since I'm in a separate one, I would now be joining this meeting. I would be muted, but they would see my face. If it was facing my ceiling, so now if I come into it and I'm facing my ceiling, then that's where I'm like, oh, I need to switch my camera right away. And then I know that when I'm joining my meeting, before I even click join now, I can see right away that all my settings are correct here. Many times when I join, before I even join a meeting, I will mute myself immediately prior to even getting into it so that when I pop in, they're not hearing my voice talking right away. And then you can do your join. You could technically present right from the beginning, but that's not something I normally do either. I just join first and then I present from there. All right, I'm going to close out of this one. Come back into here. Now, I was having a conversation with someone, also with student services, and one thing we talked about is, you know, talking about some of those general office hours. So I know, like for me, for teachers, that's going to be one thing that I need to do is set up some office hours that people can join in on. And one thing we talked about is creating one Google Hangout. So yes, while this Hangout is technically assigned to this time, that doesn't mean I can't go back to that same Hangout, that same Meet Hangout. So if this was technically at 11, from 10 to 11, I'm sorry. If I click on that, I can still access it. It's no longer, it's not shut down. Like the link is still a viable, livable link. And so one thing you do want to be cautious about is, you know, putting links out there and then having the students chatting on these links. But the other thing that I talked about with one of our student services members was that she was going to create one office hours with one Google Meet. And then she was just going to copy that meet and use it for all of her office hours so that students didn't have to go back in and find that office hour over and over again. That way, she could drop that into a Google Classroom, and that could be something that teachers maybe want to do. They could always reuse that same Google Meet so students always know what Hangout link that they could use to access it. For them, I've always just recreated new ones only because never thought about having to be doing this on a consistent, time. So if I wanted to just always use this general help one, what I would do is copy that. And then if I create another new meeting, in my description, I would just drop that link in again so that I have it, and then I could share that link out with anyone else that I needed. So I thought that was a really good idea. So you're not constantly making new meets, links that you need to share out with other people. We're going to discard that. And so I think I said it, but I'm just going to repeat it. If you grab that link, then that would be a good thing that you could then drop into a Google Classroom or share out with other teachers for you to have them join you. I do know I have a couple principals already that I've seen, like that's their plan to do some staff meetings using this code so that you can jump in and see each other face to face, sort of, since I can only see a few people on the side here, but it would allow a little bit of that conversation to be happening. All right.
Raquel, can I jump in for a minute?
Yeah, this is actually a great time. I was pausing there.
Great. I would like to show my screen because I want to show how it comes to your email and your calendar and how you can access it either way. That's okay.
Perfect. And since I'm still presenting, I'm going to have you kick me out so people see that in action. This is great. You can double dip.
So I just clicked on my white bar and said present. And so now Raquel's getting this message that says, or I'm getting a message that will say, you will take over Raquel Rand as the main presenter. And I click share now. And kind of the same process, I click on my screen and do share. I got a pop-up in the right corner that says I'm presenting. Now, the reason this is going crazy like this is because in my people at the top, I have to click on the other one. Right, Raquel?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we're seeing the support planning document.
Yep. So again, the reason it's duplicating is I need to click on the one that says myself. And you're not going to see my face because like she said, I got up to help this morning and looked terrible. So I can click back and forth at the top. So what I'm going to show you now is my email. At the top, I got an email invitation for that training. So you can either click yes right at the top here, or you can click yes a little bit farther down. It does the same thing. When you click yes on this top one, it'll put it right on your calendar. And same thing if I click down here. Now you'll notice there's a link right here. Everyone see that where it says join meets? All I have to do is click on that link and that will join the Hangout. Now I'm not going to do it because I'm already joined. Oh no, this is the new one. I can click on it. And it's the same one Raquel said before, bad camera. So I switch my camera around. Oops. And then I mute myself and I'm ready to join. Okay. So the other thing real quick. So again, that was in my email. Oops. Touch my screen. I can click right in the email and join. Or if I go to my calendar, you'll now notice that on my calendar, there is an example training scheduled. If I click on it, it opens a screen that says Raquel's the organizer and I'm invited. And right here where it says join meets with the link, here I could join by phone. I have the link. And I click right there, and again, I'm getting that join screen. Uh-oh, you saw me. So that's just how I get it on my end when I'm invited. So I'm going to
Perfect.
stop sharing my screen now so Raquel can take over again.
Sounds good. And then there's a couple questions. I'm going to actually touch on those. I've pretty much covered everything that I was planning to cover. So if there are other questions, please. This is good to know. So it didn't truly stop it did stop mine, but now it's asking, do I want to resume presenting? So I'm going to click resume presenting. And so now I'm back to being my screen showing. So a couple of questions that I wanted to touch on. So students, if you were to invite a student, so like this remind training here, if I had invited students directly to this link here, they could then go in, I could message my girlfriend and be my girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever I want to talk to, and I can message them and say, hey, go back into Miss Rand's training calendar, click on that meet, and you and I can talk. Now, they could still do that on their own. Like they could click on their own Google Meet and create their own, but this does not get shut down. Like this link is still a working link that anyone can go back into. So if you were in Frontline and you still had that remind training link, you could access that and someone else could still click on that and go into this. Just because it is past this day and time, it didn't close it. If there is, I am not aware of it just because I've never had to say that, hey, as of Thursday at 2 o'clock, that link needs to now be dead. No one can access it. It can still be clicked on by anyone. I want to go into this one. Okay. Then a question that Katie had about joining by phone. So if I know that someone doesn't have internet or being able to view on here, they could call in with their phone number with this number. Once they call that number, this PIN is just as important because this PIN is going to get them synced up with my specific chat. And so they will not be able to see what's on your screen, but they can hear you talking. So sometimes we've had people do that when, so I'm just thinking like for our one group, she's got really bad internet reception where she is. So she calls in by phone to hear the conversation, but then she uses her computer to look at the document. So she's not seeing truly in time with what we're doing, but she can at least still hear what's going on by joining by phone. And I don't, so Katie, through this, you would have to just do it through Google, but this would allow you to do some talking with the parents without knowing your phone number, if that's kind of what you're thinking. So yeah, not that I know of about deactivating the link.
Raquel, did you answer Danielle's question about deactivating the link? Did you?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. At this time, I am not aware of it. I'm not saying it's not out there, but as of what I know, there's not a way to deactivate the link. That's where if you're in Google Classroom, instead of sharing it, I'm gonna grab it. Let's showcase it. Sorry, as I navigate around. It's going slow. So if I wanted to share with my class, go to this link. I could put that in and then I post it, but now, maybe I told them specifically at 1:30, go to this link. When this is done, I could then delete this, this announcement so that students don't see that anymore. Yes, if they save that link, they could still go back to it, but this way it's not easily accessible, that they can't easily get to it. So if I were to share a link with students, this would be how I would do it so that they can't get back to my, my meet that I created. Sarah's question, students can keep chatting. We've actually done this a couple times where I think actually Shelly and I were like the supporting TIs. Tom was presenting. Tom had to go, and Shelly and I stayed in the conversation, responding to other people. So even though Tom was the person who created it, and even if he is the presenter, if he leaves, if there are still people in the chat who are still in the meet is still going and has not stopped. Google Hangouts is a free app that people can put on their phone. I actually have both Google Hangouts and Google Meet, I believe, on my phone. I'm just looking, sorry. Yes, I have Hangouts and Meet. So when I'm looking at doing like the texting responses to people, I use the Hangouts. If I want to do the video chatting, that's where I use the Meet. And both of them are free. Didn't have to add a phone number. So you could use it that way. They won't see your phone number if you're using the Google Hangouts and the Google Meet. We did, I believe it's 13 and younger, did not have access to Google Meets, but we have turned that on with everything that we've got going on with COVID, obviously. So that has been updated so that they can access that if we're doing stuff for elementary, which is unknown yet at this time.
Raquel, can you show your screen and show them where the recorded meets are showed and how to find them later?
I forgot about that part. And then got to come back to that hovercam one unless you did a good job answering that. I'm not sure. Okay, so a couple things about the recorded ones. So I think it's my OneNote one. So I recorded my OneNote training from this morning. And so this is in a couple locations, and I just want to show that. So within the calendar invite, because that's where I created this link, I have a link to my OneNote MP4 video file from the Hangout. I also have the OneNote training, and it's basically a weird document file. I also, if I go into my drive, depending on how you access yours, if you do it on the side or through here, you'll see there is a folder. Google created this for me. I did not create this folder. It will always be called the Meet Recordings. It's best to just leave it as is, otherwise it messes things up. But within here, you'll notice some of my different trainings that we did. So this is going to show you my training. Let's pause it. So there I am from this morning. So if I wanted, I could go back through and watch my OneNote training. I could share that with others. I can also look at, this is the chat transcript. So anything that, any messages that got brought up into the chat here. Oh, where did I go? I'm sorry. This is what I wanted. I could look through here and see all of the different comments that were made. This only starts once you've started the recording. So comments that were made prior to us clicking record, those do not show up in this chat transcript. Same thing with the video. Anything I was talking about prior to me clicking record, none of that is available until I've clicked the actual record button. I also believe, and I haven't seen this, and so Shelly, if you have, but the thing that I read said that if I would have had Shelly added into my Google Calendar invitation, she would also see this there as well, but I'm the one who owns it in my drive. She can just view it because she would have been an attendee within my meeting.
Yeah, and I haven't recorded anywhere I've been invited to, so I wouldn't have a way to show that or check it.
And good to know about the hover cam. I mean, I know we've been looking at using our hover cams. I don't have one myself to play with, so I haven't been able to really try out what that looks like, but it should be an option, like Shelly was saying, to just choose that camera instead. You could also, if you're presenting on your screen, you could open up your Flex software and then show that up on the screen as well. Katie, about your number, I don't know if you, okay, Rochelle, you're answering that. I'm gonna pop down to the bottom to what we have for questions.
I think I got most of them. If people have some that you can answer, feel free to re-chat them or turn on your mic and ask.
Yeah, so Kay looks like, yes. Okay, so like Rochelle said, or Shelly said, you know, we're not recommending that our under 13 kiddos are going to YouTube, but they can use the Google Classroom. That for sure they can use, whether they're 13 or not. But they can use our Google Meets and stuff, even if they are under 13. Oh, Susan, that is a great idea. So if you were having, you know, if you had student groups meeting, if they record it, they could send the transcript if they're doing it in the chat. They could also share the video if you want to see how things are going that way. You know, great way to have kids meeting individually, but also then how you can then support them as well. And I know Shelly said yes to Linda's question. The TIs are actually meeting, as you saw on my calendar, in about an hour. One thing that we are talking about is what does training look like next week? One thing we have talked about is that the TIs will be offering some office hours. So you would be able to go, you know, just like this, you'd be able to pop into a Google chat with me, whether we sign up ahead of time or if I just have open office hours and you just go into there. And so you can talk with me through different things, but we don't know yet exactly what that looks like. Such a new world right now, so we're kind of working on that.
Raquel, real quick. One thing I thought of that I showed in my other Hangout sessions was how to get that report from Tom. And I know we're kind of running short on time. So I don't know if we don't want to show it or if we want to pop in the directions to run that report. I don't know if I have them handy or if you tell me what to look under, I could look for them quick. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
The IC report where you can get all your email addresses and then just paste them into the invite instead of having to type them all. Should I show that real quick?
Do we end up? I'm gonna answer a couple of these questions here. If you're technically, I mean, YouTube Kids, I, as a teacher, don't, you know, I don't want to send kids to it because kids are supposed to be under it. If a parent's doing it, so like me personally, I send my kiddo to YouTube Kids. He can watch on there. But from a teacher's perspective, technically, we shouldn't be sending them to it. Yes, Linda, I do think we're going to be doing more about that. And I know that is one thing that we're working on is creating some simple tutorials for the students to use as well. YouTube is technically unblocked for our secondary students, but the Khajiits are a little bit different because they are accessed at a lower level. So if you have a secondary who is using it on a Khajiit, it is probably still going to be blocked. Actually, yes, so I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, Rochelle. Rasha, I don't know. Talking about that report. So there is a report in Infinite Campus.
Raquel, I think I found it. By the way, that was me seen that before.
Okay, so if I scroll all the way down, and it's hard to see because it's hidden half the time. In this instruction side, there's a very bottom option for custom links and reports. And so this is the one that you can pull student email addresses. They just updated this, I want to say yesterday, that you can now run this report from home. It was originally a report that you could only access while you were at school. So I can also choose student or guardian. And so now I can have access, I can get all of, maybe. So this teacher's class, this would be all of my students if I wanted to access. So technically not a Google Meet thing, but yes, that IC one now is available.
I just threw the link of the video from Tom showing how to do that in case someone was behind to get that. So if you look in the chat, the video on how to do that again is there, and then you could just copy and paste it right into your email.
So you do have to have Google, you have to have classes assigned to you to get that. I do think there are other reports that you can run on the tool side. You know, there's different reports on the tool side that you would have to bring up that you could get some of the students. I don't have one off the top of my head though right now. That report that I had run here was based on a teacher who has their own classroom and has students assigned to them each of the different hours. And the question about, so sharing like this video and the OneNote ones, that's another thing that the TIs are working on this afternoon, what it looks like and how we are posting our videos and where people can access them so they can come back to them. So I'm assuming, and this is a full assumption here, that at some point the TIs will decide this is where we're putting it, this is how we're sharing, this is how people can access it, and then we will email it out to all of our staff so that you will have access to it as well. But that's an assumption on my part, simply based on the email thread that I've seen. So we are technically at our time. Shelly and I have to meet. We have an example training to go over. So not really, obviously. Feel free if you have a couple more questions that you can, if you want to ask, you can. Otherwise, please make sure to, Shelly, were you all done with the attendance? Is that good?
Yeah, I think I screenshotted everybody, so I should be able to be fine with the attendance.
Fantastic. So we're good on this attendance. Please make sure that you get your time clock ones in. If you have questions about that, please let us know and some of us can help you. Thank you all for attending. We know it's a lot going on, so we appreciate you. Katie, I look forward to seeing you. I know we have a meeting with for it next week as well, using this regard. So if there's other questions, otherwise I'll probably hang out for a few minutes until we get our people down to 0 if there's any last questions. Yes, thank you all. Enjoy your weekend before we truly start our learning. Susan, are you looking for the hour code again? Is that what you were? For the time clock code? Yes, okay. Here is your time clock. Yeah, I will walk through it. I think I'm still presenting, so everyone should see my screen. So I'm going to go to Launchpad. Now, mine is in a folder just based on how I have mine set up. Yours might be somewhere else. So I have it under Human Resources. That's just what worked for me. But it is called Time Clock Plus. When you open it, you need to type in your badge or your ID number. And your ID number is your employee ID number, which is the first 4, I'm sorry, can't speak. It's the last 3 of your social security number. And then it's 2 for your birth date, 2 for the month, 2 for your date, and then 2 for your year. And I'm just gonna pop this over here for 1 second. Oh, it did go in. Okay. I couldn't remember if it showed the numbers or if it showed dots. So once you enter your employee ID number, you'll see this screen here. If you remember to do it right away, you could clock in and clock out. I never remember to do that. I have just been using the managed timesheet. So when I go here, so underneath Friday, I would go in and add a time that I worked. I would need to choose my time here. So I would choose 12:30, making sure it says PM, and then come over to the next one. Ooh, that got real weird. I don't know why I did that. So we went to 1:30 PM as well. So I make sure my time is right. But then you'll notice for some reason it goes to that 4-year-old kindergarten professional pay. You want to then edit this. You could also do your clock in time here as well. Underneath this job code, I'm going to delete everything so that there's nothing in there. And I'm going to paste in that code that we listed, and it should say teacher professional pay. So when I click on that, if someone was having an issue yesterday and it was coming up red, make sure you have nothing in there ahead of time so you have just that code. Once you're good with that, you would click save, and now it will update here. Now you might notice it keeps dropping down this black thing. I have to make sure I click accept. Even though it's here, it's not officially in the system. I have to click the accept button, and then it will send it to my supervisor to approve. Now, I'm not going to do that because that's not what I use. So I'm going to completely clear mine because that's not the system that I'm going to be using. Okay, so I hope that made sense for those who are watching. Susan, where were you at for trying to do the four-year-old kindergarten part? And then Jacob, did you have any follow-up questions of me running through that process? I kind of did it fast, I'm sorry. Perfect. Thank you, Jacob. Well, we still have 14 people in our session. Oh, I am going to stop recording at this time.